Well, cricket starts off the SportsMax zone for this Wednesday. The West Indies will be looking for another series win against Bangladesh as the third T20 International bowls off in Guyana on Thursday. Gerard Morris-Seeley has the preview.
The West Indies will clash with Bangladesh in the third and final T20 International at the Providence Stadium in Guyana on Thursday. The Windies got off to a good start in the first T20 in Dominica last Saturday before rain forced a no result. They followed up with a 35-run win in the second match one day later. The regional men have been dominant with both bat and ball, and captain Nicholas Pooran is pleased with how they have been performing thus far.
Muscular shoulders of Odean Smith.
The way he didn't watch bowl, I'm very happy to see his contributions. Obed McCoy coming back into the team and giving us an impression. We missed that in the past. I'm looking forward for him to have a wonderful summer as well. With the bat, I think Brandon King has been really good. Rovman Powell has been wonderful in our last game there. And I think not only, I don't want to keep singling out anyone, but it was a collective effort. A lot of guys put their hands up, and that's what we want from a team perspective. Again, we are playing a brand of cricket where we know it's T20 cricket is very inconsistent, and it's difficult for guys to keep performing day in, day out. But it's nice that guys are contributing, and that's what matters the most. At the end of the day, once we can get the guys doing exactly what the team needs to win, then we are happy.
With the T20 World Cup later this year in Australia, Pooran believes a series win will boost the side's confidence.
We as a team, we spoke about winning games, winning series, winning tournaments. And if we can get a series win here, that would be wonderful for us in terms of confidence. Going into play in India and then New Zealand, we're looking forward. We're definitely looking forward to tomorrow to see if we can wrap the series up and be victorious.
Game 3 bowls off at 12:30 local time in Guyana. The West Indies lead the series 1-0.
Yeah, anxiously waiting for this series decider. That's what it is, because if the West Indies lose, it means that the series will be tied. Brandon Corlett, journalist out of Ghana, he writes for the Guyana Times, now joins us to look ahead to the prospects for the West Indies in this final match of the series. Brandon, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Great to have you on. The game is being played in Guyana, so my first question is, how is the weather looking?
Well, typical Guyana weather. The rain is around again at Providence. I think every time there is cricket at Providence, the rain probably smiles because there is rain again at Providence. But let's keep our fingers crossed that we might have some sunshine tomorrow. And we know Providence is a fast drying ground, so we should expect cricket once there's a little bit of a sunshine.
Yeah, so we have already established, Brandon, that in white ball cricket, both ODIs and T20s, the West Indies haven't been the best for several years now. But they look pretty efficient in Game 2 after the first game was washed out. How confident are you that they'll get the job done in this closing match in the series?
Yeah, I think West Indies will come good in this final T20 International. Rovman Powell seems to have rediscovered his IPL form. Brandon King is in some good form. Nicholas Pooran as well is looking good with the bat. But with the ball, Romario Shepherd is actually showing some consistency after an ordinary time. And we see Hayden Walsh Jr. also finding his groove. And Akil Hussain simply superb. So I think collectively as a team, the West Indies look good and, prepared to win this T20 International Series 2-0.
So I'm guessing you are in agreement with the skipper, because he said, Brandon, that, although he singled out a couple of players, he spoke about the collective effort. And of course, for some time we have, been discussing, and we've been very disappointed in the fact that, the entire West Indies unit never really clicked at the same time. So is it that you are in agreement with the captain that we've been seeing, a collective effort from the players as of recent?
Yes, definitely I'm agreeing with Nicholas Pooran. I actually spoke to him today at the venue on the eve of the match, and, he was confident. The dressing room looks good. The guys are upbeat, and all the players are looking to put their hands up whenever they're called upon. I think Kimo Paul as well, he would be looking to show what he can do in the dead bowling aspect, as well as Romario Shepherd bowling up front. So I think collectively, right, the players are looking good, to put up good results for the West Indies.
Yeah, and speaking about Nicholas Pooran, I'm happy that you spoke to him today, so maybe you can also weigh in on this question. How do you feel that he has been utilizing the bowlers? Because he has been commended by many analysts and journalists for how he has handled that. What's your take?
You see, when you look at the West Indies bowling attack currently, it has a lot of variety with Obed McCoy, that left-arm seam option. And then when you look at Odean Smith, he is the quickest of the lot in terms of the fast bowlers. So Obed McCoy with all his variety there. Then you have Odean Smith with that extra pace. Romario Shepherd with that slingy action. And then you have Kimo Paul as well. You know, a very good dead bowler in terms of the Yorkers and so on. And Akil Hussain, when you look at the spin department, Akil Hussain has simply been the most consistent white ball bowler in the West Indies in the past year, right? And Hayden Walsh Jr. is finding his straps. So when you look at the collective bowling effort and the setup of the bowling unit, it looks really good.
Yeah, and when we put these matches in context, of course, the T20 World Cup right around the corner, how important is it, Brandon, that, you know, these players step up, put their hands up, especially for places that are up for grabs?
Right, places are up for grabs. You know, Shimron Hetmyer and Evan Lewis, they are two notable players that are missing from this series, as well as Jason Holder. So these players that are getting the opportunity in this Bangladesh T20 series, they would certainly want to, you know, grab the opportunity. The T20 World Cup is just around the corner. So while this match might seem, you know, as just another T20 match, it's very important for most of these players with that World Cup in mind.
Yeah, Brandon, you know what? A lot of cricket experts are eyeing what is happening now with the team roster as being belated. Many feel that this sort of rebuilding process and injecting new players into the setup should have happened a year ago ahead of the last World Cup. Of course, you know, traditional regulars in the team like Bravo and Pollard have now retired. Chris Gale and Andre Russell, two experienced men who are not in this current setup. We expect Gale's official announcement of his retirement soon. But how satisfied are you that the new players, you spoke earlier about Rovman Powell rediscovering his form and so on. How satisfied are you that the injection of these new players into the setup will bolster the team enough to make the West Indies a potent force at the World Cup T20?
Yeah, it's actually a good sign for West Indies cricket. You know, Dwayne Bravo is no more, Chris Gale, Andrew Russell on the end of his career. So when you look at guys like Rovman Powell, you know, the captain Nicholas Pooran, Akil Hussain. Hussain is not only a spin bowler, he actually offers a lot with the bat. So when you look at these guys, and they're actually playing a lot of cricket together. So I think that is really a good sign for West Indies cricket and building towards that T20 World Cup. We know the rebuilding phase has been long in the West Indies, but I think the more these players gel together, play as a unit, definitely we can see an improved performance at the T20 World Cup.
Yeah, you mentioned about Akil Hussain and the batting ability that he offers lower in the order. How good of a batsman is he? Because we've seen him play some magnificent innings at, you know, in different formats of the game in recent months. How good a batsman is he?
Yeah, I actually witnessed him firsthand in Barbados earlier this year. He actually has a good technique, solid technique. I don't know if you guys can recall, he actually scored a first-class century.
Yes.
And prior to the regional first-class season, this season, he scored some runs as well in the trial matches. So I think he's not, you know, a slouch with the bat. He can handle himself.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier on about Hayden Walsh looking to, you know, rediscover some of his form, because in recent months he had looked to be struggling a bit.
Yeah, you know, I think leg spin is a difficult art to master, right? And a few months ago, Hayden Walsh looked really ordinary. And then, if you recall, a few years ago, he did extremely well at the Caribbean Premier League, right? And he broke into the West Indies team. And since then, he had inconsistent performances. But now, in the two matches so far, I think he's hitting a bit more consistent line and length. And that's really good. He just needs to have that extra bit of confidence, right? And it will help him.
Yeah, of course, Bangladesh are ranked below the West Indies, Brandon, in the T20 format of the game. There is going to be some more pressuring white ball cricket coming up towards the back end of July into August, with India coming for ODIs and T20s. Given what you've seen from this current West Indies team, do you think they can be a competitive force against India, albeit the India squad for the ODIs announced in the past 24 hours, and they'll be missing a lot of their key players like Bumrah and Kohli and so on.
Yeah, when you look at the West Indies in T20s, right, I will give them a more, a slighter advantage. But then in the one-day international format, it's pretty a difficult task to bat 50 overs. It seems to be a difficult task to bat 50 overs. So I think once the West Indies batsmen can bat 50 overs, right? We know Shai Hope is an extraordinary one-day international batsman, right? But we need all the batting to come collectively and bat 50 overs. When the West Indies bat 50 overs and score, let's say 300, 350, right? It gives the bowlers something to work with. And that is where, it must start in the 50 overs format. But I think West Indies will do pretty well in the T20 format.
Yeah, Brandon, there were some troubling comments from Chief Selector Desmond Haynes in the past week about Evan Lewis questioning his commitment, based on ability. I think Evan Lewis is unquestionably the most potent top-order batsman for the West Indies at the moment in the white ball game. How troubling do you find Des Haynes' comments?
I mean, Evan Lewis actually posted on his Facebook that there's two sides to a story. So I think obviously there is more to the story. And Evan Lewis, a gifted opener. He's actually heading to Sri Lanka. I think on July 31st, there is the Lankan Premier League. So I don't know whether or not it's a commitment problem or if there's an issue within, right? And the lead selector said his piece, but we have to hear from Evan Lewis, his side of the story.
Do you agree with me, though, that he's the best opening batsman the West Indies has in white ball cricket?
Definitely, Evan Lewis is right up there with the best in the Caribbean currently.
All right, before we go then, Brandon, you did mention that there's rain around in Guyana, and keeping our fingers crossed that things will be all right to have this third T20 international. But the fans and their appetite for this third T20, because it's important that the West Indies wins this game.
Yeah, we actually had international cricket at Providence since July 31st, and that was against Pakistan. So the fans are actually excited, even though it's a work day, Thursday, 1:30 in the afternoon. I think a lot of fans, especially from Berbice in the country areas, they're expected to turn out in their numbers, right, to support the West Indies. So given that the weather permits us to have a full game, I think it will be a good game.
All right, Brandon, as usual, great talking to you here on the SportsMax zone. And we'll be watching, and we hope there's no rain in Guyana. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man, cheers.
Okay, we're sticking with cricket. The United States and Guyana walked away with wins in the CWI Rising Stars Under-19 Women's Cricket Competition earlier on Wednesday. Both now 2-0, having won on Tuesday as well. The USA, coached of course by retired West Indies batting star Shipnarayan Chandapal, defeated the Windward Islands by 8 wickets after easily chasing 106 in 17.4 overs. Now, earlier in the match, they had restricted the Windwards to 105 for 5 in 20 overs. In the day's second match, Guyana crushed the Leewards by 10 wickets after dismissing them for 6-1. They needed just 7.4 overs to reach 6-2 without loss. And Mariah, we have expressed a lot of concern here on the SportsMax zone about the volume of women's cricket played in the region, and even more so at the junior level, girls, teenagers playing. So this Under-19 tournament, very, very important.
Very, very important. And earlier today, I was watching a couple of the matches. And of course, I was thinking to myself, this is the perfect opportunity, because based on conversations that I would have had with players in the current West Indies women setup, a lot of concerns for the players themselves as to who or how they find the next set, the next generation of Windies women. Because, Lance, and we've expressed this on the show many times before, when it's time to pick or select a team, it's the same crop of players that have been playing since forever. So I think competitions like this one, opens up the arena for us to see the youngsters, for us to see their potential. And of course, widens the pool to choose from. So now it makes the cricket more competitive, and when the cricket becomes competitive, overall we have a good quality product. So now that these youngsters will compete, we're getting to see them on a global stage, and we can say, all right, so for example, such person isn't doing well on the Windies team, let's give this player an opportunity because she would have put her hand up based on her previous performances. So I'm all for this under-19 competition, and I hope there's also like a different competition after under-19 so that, you know, we can fill the gap between under-19 and the senior level.
Yeah, one of the things that we've got to look at, though, is the spreading of the quality among the teams, because at the senior level, which we just saw with the CGI Insurance and the T20 Blaze recently, Jamaica and Barbados were the top teams. But both were beaten in the opening games on Tuesday. The USA beat Jamaica quite handsomely, and Guyana defeated Barbados. And, you know, that in some way, certainly from the Guyana beating Barbados standpoint, is a good look. It means that the Guyanese are putting some strong teenagers out there in the women's game, and maybe in the coming years we can look for Guyana being a more potent force at the senior level in women's cricket. Yeah, and you know, there are a couple Guyanese right now in the senior setup, but I agree with you. You know, when there are competitions like that, and not even just Guyana, the Leewards and the Windwards, I want to see more young women from those countries, you know, putting their hands up and staking a claim for the West Indies senior team. So, Lance, it goes back to my point where, you know, we welcome competitions like this, more cricket, so that there's a bigger pool to choose from, and it creates, you know, there's no room for complacency. The current set of Windies women, they will know that they can't afford to slip, because if they do slip, there'll be a new generation of youngsters just waiting to take their spot. Yeah, the Antigua Observer newspaper ran a story this morning with their women's coach, Leon Kumarodny, focusing or highlighting the fact that he feels that there needs to be more development for the women's game. I think he was predominantly talking about the Leeward Islands setup, but you got the distinct impression that he was talking generally from a regional standpoint as well. So, good point there made by Rodney, who is also president of the Antigua Cricket Association, I think. And definitely need to see more emphasis and development put into women's cricket in the region. We have a lot more to come on the SportsMax Zone, and we'll be back after this.
Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.